Hello, and welcome to the final episode of this season's Steps to Happiness show on Soul Livity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. On my show, we've explored the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help lead you back to the happiness within you. The happiness principle for today's show is living a happy life full of possibilities. While the world can lead us away from the joy, peace, and harmony that we are by having us feel unpleasant emotions, we always have the choice to make time to reconnect with the happiness and love that is within us. We must remember that we can't control anything outside of ourselves. We can only control our response to it. Research has shown that approximately 50% of our happiness is genetic, 40% is intentional activity, and 10% is life circumstances. And as of late, the science of epigenetics is showing that our behaviors can affect the way our genes work. Therefore, 90% of our happiness is within our control and 10% is not. In every moment, we can choose what we want our reality to be like. I can choose to go about my day as I always have, feeling like outside forces are dictating what my life will be like. Or I can choose to see that with every decision I am making, I am designing the life that I am leading. This season of the show reinforced the importance of becoming aware of your thoughts. Are they serving you? Are they limiting you in any way? Are your thoughts loving, compassionate, and encouraging towards yourself? Or are you living your life according to external expectations for who you should be or what you'll be able to achieve in your life? Are there many I have to's and I shoulds governing your actions, where you find yourself saying, I should do this because that's what a good mom does, or I have to do this because my parents expect me to? These are red flag statements that can alert you to whether you are really living your life on your terms. The mission of the show has been to offer ideas and strategies from a variety of guests that can help us take control of our lives to become victors rather than victims, to look at ourselves and our lives through a new lens, a lens of possibilities. The present moment is where possibilities lie, if we're conscious of not allowing the past to ruin it. When we allow the past to inform our present, we are allowing mistakes, failures, and disappointments to affect the choices we make in the present. Where we say, this will never work because in the past, or when I tried this before, it didn't work. So what would be different now? But it can be different now because this moment is brand new, a clean slate in which we can create a whole new story for ourselves. It requires that we block the mind viruses and silence the critic in our minds that steal our joy in the present. This means that we say stop when limiting thoughts and beliefs about ourselves try to creep in. And because of how our brain operates, they do. We must become conscious of our thoughts and stop living our lives on autopilot. 90% of our happiness is within our control. We can choose to take action that will support the well-being of all aspects of ourselves, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. And by doing so, we show up in the world as our big self, as our true and authentic self, who is willing to experience any short-term discomfort, risk, and uncertainty to be who we really are and to go for what we truly want. It means living a no regrets life where we feel on purpose and are mindful of the present, the gift the now moment is offering you. My guests on today's show are all set to inspire you to take hold of your life while also surrendering to the infinite possibilities this universe has to offer us. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my first guest on the show. He's a renowned Broadway and Disney composer, songwriter, author, lyricist, and conductor. David Friedman, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Now, David, if you could share some of your amazing accomplishments with us, that would be great.
Okay, yes, I find I get exhausted when people list them. Well, I started out as a Broadway conductor, conducting shows on Broadway, doing the orchestra, doing the vocal arrangements. And then I conducted shows like I was conducting the original Grease on Broadway, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And then I switched to movies. I worked on a show with Alan Menken, who wrote a lot of the Disney movies. And so I conducted and vocal arranged Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame. And then I left those movies because I really wanted to write. I always wrote, but I realized that if I wanted to have my own voice, I needed to take the risk and jump ship. So I did a lot of writing. I wrote movies for Disney. I wrote songs for people like Diana Ross, Barry Manilow. I produced a singer named Nancy Lamont, and I did 6 albums for her. I did 5 albums, and then she passed away at the age of 43, and I did 4 more. She was really my muse. I wrote a lot of my songs for her. At the same time, there was a parallel career, which my partner is a Unity minister, and so I got very interested in that, and I began to write a lot of metaphysics books. I created something called the Thought Exchange, which is about not just the simple, you take on a positive thought, something positive happens, but more about why we have such trouble holding those positive thoughts. And it's because when you have had a positive thought that has been challenging for you, like if you were a kid and you said, I can do this, someone slapped you across the face, you learn not to have that positive thought because you have discomfort with it. So I teach people how to not be comfortable, but to be comfortable with their discomfort. You want to have a positive thought, then you have to be able to be with what comes up. So I did that, and that developed into 6 books that I've written. And the last couple were based on songs of mine, because I was doing a workshop called Conversations with Spirit, where you were asked to ask Spirit a question and write down the answer. And Spirit said to me, David, I'm going to quote your lyrics to you, and quoted a song of mine, and then said, they're actually not your lyrics, they're mine. I've been telling you what you're supposed to be doing forever, but you keep passing it on to people and not listening. Just sit down and listen to your songs, and you'll know everything you have to know about your life. So it all comes together. My writing is about spirit and healing, and that's the highlights. I could go on, but that's basically it. So.
Thank you. Thank you. And so this is exactly the right platform for you, which is why I wanted you to be on the show, because as you know, it's called Soul Livity TV. So we're very much about talking about our spiritual self and our connection to source and the universe. And so, David, you recently released your book entitled Help is on the Way. Can you tell us a little bit about the book and the song by the same name that we will be listening to?
Great. Well, Help is on the Way is a song that I wrote for Nancy Lamont, the singer who I described to you. And she was an extraordinary singer. And she called me one day and she said, I'm getting tired of my closing number. Could you write me something that would give people a sense of encouragement, a sense of hope that I could send them out of the theater with? Mm-hmm. And it was the age of AIDS. It was, the late 80s, early 90s. And so I wrote this song, and it says, help is on the way from places you don't know about today. But this is not a song that says, oh, don't worry, I know exactly what to do. You'll be fine, et cetera. It's a song that really was written to address those times when we have no idea how we're going to fix something. The age of AIDS at that time, AIDS was a death sentence, and there was no one knew what it was, how to deal with it. And this song was written to speak to when you really feel like you're in trouble and don't know what to do. And
Mhm.
it says, there is something. There are things you don't know about. There are people you haven't met. There is spirit. There's a much larger thing that will be the healing. And you don't have to know what it is because you don't do the healing. You open to something. And our job is always to open
Mhm.
to it. So what happened was the
Mhm.
song became very popular. It became the theme song for Broadway Cares every year. And it, went around and the world in many ways. And I had another song, We Can Be Kind. And when I was between books and then one of the books was delayed, and my publisher asked, do you have another idea? I took that song and every line was a title of a chapter. And I told stories and uh, anecdotes and helpful hints based on that subject. And it was very successful. So I thought, let's do it with Help Is on the Way. So Help Is on the Way, the book, which is a book and it's also an audio book, it takes each line of the song, it's a chapter title, and then under it are stories about how help was on the way in that way, from places you don't know about today, or, life has its own ideas of how things come out. Just hang in there. Life is gonna work it out. And it's all these stories and anecdotes and ways in which you can apply it. And so it came from the song, and the song is, I'm more well known as a songwriter than as a writer. So the song often precedes the book so that people get the idea of what the book is talking about. And the book is an
Mhm.
amplification song. So that's the story of how that book came about.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So we're going to go ahead and listen to the song now, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it afterwards.
Terrific.
Don't give up the ship, even when you feel it sinking and you don't know what to do. Don't give up your dream, even though you may be thinking it never will come true. Life has its own ideas of how things come about, and if you just hang in there, life is gonna work it out. Help is on the way from places you don't know about today, from friends you may not have met yet. Believe me when I say I know help is on the way. You don't have to know where the path you're on is leading. You just have to walk along, dreaming as you go, asking for the things you're needing. You never can go wrong if you have faith that things are happening as they should. And just believe each step you take is leading you to something good. Help is on the way from places you don't know about today, from friends you may not have met yet. Believe me when I say I know help is on the way. So open your heart, open your mind. No matter how you've tried and failed, tomorrow you could turn and find that help is on the way from places you don't know about today, from friends you may not have met yet. Believe me when I say I know help is on the way. Help is on the way.
Oh, David, it's so beautiful. It has such a catchy tune to it that you just feel like kind of moving, and there's a flow to it too, right? That not even just, the words are suggesting to be in the flow of life. But many of us are not living like that. We're not living in the flow where we feel like, we're hitting walls, we're hitting roadblocks that we have liberties being taken away from us. There's things that we can do. The world is against us. And this song makes you feel like maybe it's us. Maybe it's us that are setting up this kind of lack of flow that, in my introduction, I talked about how 90% of our happiness is within our control and 10% is outside circumstances. And so if we have control, then that is so empowering. And the way we look at life and all of that. So I love the song.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was Nancy Lamont. I mean, and I was so thrilled that she sang it, and she really understood it. And, here's the thing about what you just said. I think, in fact, we are always living in the flow. We can't not. It's just, what are we flowing with? What are we? It's like there's a saying, God always says yes. So if I am calling on my body, if I'm saying of all the things in the universe, I think that things never work out, then that's what I will see. Now, I'm not causing them not to work out. I'm seeing my own thought. So, in other words, it's not that, oh, you thought that, so you made that happen. The truth is, there is nothing happening. The truth is, I can't prove that you're here. I'm experiencing you in me. And that's the only place we ever experience the world. So when we're looking at the world, we keep thinking it's the world, but that would be like looking at the mirror and saying, oh, who's that ugly person in the mirror? There's no one in the mirror. There's our thought that we're ugly or beautiful or whatever. And I said to someone the other day, she was talking about how she can't do something because it would upset her mother, and her mother's been dead for 10 years. So I said, are you aware that your mother only exists in your mind? And she said, yes. And I said, but are you aware that when your mother was alive, she only existed? So your whole experience is in here. So we keep looking out there, and it's like sitting in front of a mirror and going, you know what? I'm not moving until you move. And the mirror can't move if you don't move. So I really try whenever I can, and I'm not always successful because I'm not a saint. I look and I go, what thought of mine am I seeing in front of me? So am I seeing my thought? I can't have things. I always get hurt. I always get punished. I'm only seeing my thought. And then what happens is, if the world is a mirror designed only to reflect what you're thinking back to you so you can work on it in you, then anything the mirror shows me. Thank you for showing me that I'm having thoughts of failure. Thank you for me thinking them, showing me that I think I'm sick. Thank you for showing me that I think I'm limited. And then we begin to be able to work where the work can be done, which is in me. And it's such a thrill when you realize you just take on the thought, and you're not making anything happen because nothing is happening, but you are making, as you say, your experience of happiness, your experience of abundance is yours to do. And that's what's so, I think we live in an illusion that there's anything out there. There's just, when I look in the mirror, it looks very real to me, but there's nothing in the mirror. So it's an interesting question.
And I'm in accordance with you. I don't know if you're a student of the Course in Miracles, but its teachings is very much about what you just said. So I'm totally in accordance with you in that life is 99% our perception and 1% as it actually is. And so we are always looking at it through our own personal lens. And
Well,
we are,
my partner and I, every morning get up and we read the lesson together. And the Course in Miracles lesson, we decided to do that this year. And what I'm finding fascinating is generally the lesson is what I taught last night in my thought exchange workshop or what I came to. In other words, there's a progression that is in our lives. Myrtle Fillmore, the founder of Unity, said, what I'm telling you is as old as time, but when you discover it in yourself, you think you discovered it because that's the way it works. So there is this progression of seeing things, and it's so not what it appears. And when you get in touch with that power, like when people say, oh, you're going to manifest this or that, you will, but the manifest is not the point. The point is it's in you. So someone will say, wait a minute, you mean there's no one out there? How lonely? I go, lonely? I have you right inside of me here. You are in here. I have you. I feel you. That's much better than you being out there. And so there's really something that when we take that risk, it's sort of the analogy I use is if you want to turn on the ceiling light, you don't go to the ceiling light and poke it. You go to the wall switch and you flip the switch, and then electricity, which I have no idea how electricity works or what it does. And even if you can explain it, you don't know why. Why does it do that? Because God, because spirit, because that's the way things work. So I open the switch and the light goes on, and I can depend on that. But if I don't trust the switch and I start poking at the light, nothing happens. I don't write music. I open to it. I don't know how to write a song. I open the door to that which writes it, which is not me. And who would want it to be? And so when we really understand that we are being lived, we have everything. And it's not a matter of what appears in the world, though, like a mirror, it must appear if you have it in here. So it's a backwards way to live, kind of. It just is the opposite thing. So, and we were talking before the show, and you were talking about how we always live from our past thoughts and experiences, and that limits us so much. And one of my favorite analogies, which is in the book, is that if you tossed a coin 5,000 times and it turned up tails 5,000 times in a row, what are the chances that on the 5,001st toss it would turn up heads? It's 50-50. It doesn't matter. Each coin toss is 50-50. But you can imagine if you tossed a coin 5,000 times and it turned up tails, you'd say, I'm not even tossing that coin. I'm a tail tosser. That can't happen. Even though nothing has changed, we are holding on. So the thing to do is to go to blank, which is what spirit is. To go to, I am open. I don't know. Now, you see, this is where my thought exchange work comes in. In order to do that, you're going to feel very uncomfortable if you've tossed a coin 5,000 times and you dare to toss it again. So that discomfort is going to be there. But so what? I'm uncomfortable every time I go on the stage. I'm terrified. I go, okay, I'm going to drop dead. Boom, on we go. So you got to feel, you want to be successful. When someone says, I really want to be successful, like Oprah Winfrey or Barbara Streisand, I say, great. Are you willing to be as uncomfortable as they are? Because I assure you, it's uncomfortable to be those people, but they experience them. Don't expect to be relaxed and when you're successful. That has nothing to do with it. Comfort has nothing to do with it. It's the ability to be with discomfort, which is to be alive. So.
Now, David, our time together is almost done, but if you could maybe leave some parting words about how can we surrender into, for me, it's surrendering into the universe, surrendering to a higher order, a higher intelligence of what all of life is. How can we feel comfortable to do that, to know that help is on the way, to have that sense of hope, to be open to limitless possibilities, to get out of our heads of limitation and the way we're, because we are actually negatively prone to go into, what's not going to work and the upset and all of that. That's very much part of our programming. And so how can we trust into
Okay.
what the
So
song is suggesting?
a lot of it is experience. So I would say read my book because you'll get 60 stories about how that works. And, that we just get that memory, that mindset filled with possibility. But here's the thing, like, if you look at it has to be from your experience. So if you look at like any 12-step program, it starts with admitted we were powerless. And people go, I don't want to admit I'm powerless. I want to do something. But why do we admit we're powerless? Why do we surrender? Because only when we take our false idea, like when someone says, I finally decided to give up control, I say, you had it? Who has control? So only when you admit you're powerless, then you think, okay, well, if I'm powerless, what could have power? All right. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore us to sanity. I don't know what that is. And I made the decision to turn myself over to that power. That's like diving off a diving board. It's very scary. It's very whatever, but you can only find out by doing it. So usually we only come to these conditions. There's a wonderful writer named Richard Rohr who says, you only come to this when the other thing has fallen apart and failed. So often life is sending falling apart of your control because that's the only way. Like my partner, he's a minister and he laughs. He says, oh no, has it gotten so terrible that we have to pray as opposed to pray first? So, you have to let go of it by rote and say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I don't know what's going to happen here. Put a thought in your mind. Don't do anything about it. Just see if you can imagine the outcome you want and just leave it to spirit. And you're going to feel very uncomfortable until you begin to trust by having experiences where, oh, that actually worked. Wow. So my book really talks about all the times when people couldn't do anything, couldn't figure it out, couldn't whatever, and help came. So after a while you go, maybe help is on the way from places you don't know about today. So
Love it. Thank you so much. Now, David, if people would like to connect with you after the show, how can they do that?
to tell them to write to me at David Friedman, Friedman, composer @gmail.com. And I love getting emails and I do private coachings. I write back and forth to people. If people need any of the music or the books, I can direct them to the right place to get that. So I love being personally in contact with people who are interested in this. It's wonderful to spend the day with people talking about this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show today and encouraging us to stay open to the possibilities from the universe.
Thank you. It encourages me too.
After the break, I'll be speaking with Jenny about the ways we can connect with the happiness within us. I'll see you here after the break.
6 years ago, when I started Solivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit solivity.com now.
Welcome back to the Steps to Happiness show. I'd like to introduce my next guest. She's an energy healing practitioner, a self-love activator, and an author. Jenny Manion, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here with you.
Thank you. Jenny, can you tell us a little bit about your story that brought you to do the work that you do with your clients today, please?
Sure. Yeah, I was a young mom when I started getting sick with a lot of illnesses. I was diagnosed with 4 different chronic illnesses. I was sick for 7 years, went the traditional route of medicine, went a little bit alternative in going to do things like acupuncture, chiropractic, things like that, but was in chronic pain. And it took me really recognizing my power within and switching my inner dialogue to change. And I wound up being able to heal myself in 3 weeks of 7 years of chronic illness. And that just kind of ignited, like, first of all, how the heck did I do that? And wanting to shout to the rooftops, because after joining support groups and being around other people that were ill, really wanting to spread that message that our mind is so powerful, and just learning more and more. That just opened the floodgates to me. I want to learn more and more so I can show more and more people how to do the things that I did and apply this to other areas of my life as well.
That's amazing. No, thank you for sharing that. Jenny, today's happiness principle on the show is living a happy life full of possibilities. So, part of that principle is living a happy life. And what that means is that we came here to have a happy life. We didn't come here to be miserable. We didn't come to say, well, this is life and then you die. No, that we came here to live a happy one. And if we're not, then we need to take a step back and evaluate that. The second part to that principle is living a life full of possibilities. And especially during a time like this where we feel very limited because of the pandemic and the government limiting mobility, limiting things that we can do, where we can go, who we can see, lots of restrictions. And so this is what we're going to be talking about, is that how do we, one, live a happy life, and two, understand that it's full of possibilities, although the reality feels like it's not. And I felt like you were the perfect guest for this episode because on your website, it says that as an energy reawakener and self-love activator, you help others understand that everything is possible. So if you can tell us a little bit more about this, please.
Sure. We are born with these unlimited possibilities, but we all go through trauma. We all go through this life where we have relationships. Perhaps our parents didn't know how to be the best parents out there for us. We have community messages from our community, our teachers. We have all these challenges that we face, and usually we do not embrace that we've made it through the challenge or the lessons learned. We tend to stick to the negativity, really hold on to those negative messages from either relationships or whatever experiences we've had. So really it's about tapping back into that unlimited possibility, knowing that, okay, so maybe our parents weren't stellar in our eyes, but that was probably because they didn't have that example for them. So really trying to let go of that past, giving ourselves permission to let go of the past. Maybe there is some processing around it that needs to be done, but our power is in the now. Our power is in knowing that in this present moment we're probably safe and okay, and there are things that we can tap into that can shift our energy into being more grateful. That is how I healed myself. Gratitude was the number one energy that allowed me to heal, because even when we're sick, we're hard on ourselves. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not a good enough this. And we're always criticizing ourselves. That's very disempowering. If we were to talk to a pet like that, or God forbid, a child like that, we know what the repercussions of that would be. But we tend to not filter that when we're talking to ourselves. So, really, it is that awareness and how we speak to ourselves and tapping into the love that's inside us all. I do feel at soul level we are all unconditional love. It's just the mind and some of the past stories that get in the way of that. So I do love having my clients remember some of the things that brought them joy, or inviting new things into their life that bring them joy. And it can be simple, simple things. It doesn't have to be something complicated. It can be going outside and take a breath and looking up at the stars. It can be being in the shower and being like, wow, this warm water feels awesome. So grateful I have
Mhm.
running water. It can be little things that bring us joy, can be putting on a favorite song in the living room or kitchen while you're cooking and singing or
Mhm.
dancing along. So, really knowing that it's up to us in every moment to choose how we're reacting, to choose the information. If you're sitting down watching hours of news a day, you're probably not going to be too inspired. But we can
Mhm.
choose the information we're taking in, how much information we're taking in, and we can choose where we want to put our energy.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. There are two things that stood out for me in what you just said. Number one was how when we were born into this world, we were born with a mindset of full of possibilities, that there isn't anything that we can't do, and anything can be lots of things. And what I mean by that is, like, little kids will go into those like pots and pan drawers, and they're taking things out,
Yes.
and they're doing like so many things with it. You're like, what are they doing? But it's like that spoon to them can be lots of different things. So it's true, when we are born into this world, that we do come with a sense of limitlessness, because we are that. But then the world very slowly takes us away from that. And so my view on happiness is exactly the same thing, that we come into this world embodying love, peace, and happiness. And you see that in young children, that they embody that love, peace, and happiness. They're that. But then again, the world very slowly takes us away from that and has us feeling other things, and has us limiting who we can be, what we can achieve, and the type of life that we can live. So that was the first part that I really appreciated in what you said. And the second part that I appreciated was that there are simple things that we can start to acknowledge and be more perceptive of, that can help us to realign with the love, peace, and happiness that we are. And that if happiness is at our core, it is our essential nature, we can return there at any moment. And that in the present is where we feel that. I was totally in accordance with you, that happiness is in the now, although again, because of the way the brain operates, it brings us into the past, right? 95% of our thoughts in it at any time are our thoughts of the past, which
Mhm.
allows us a very slim margin, 5% margin, to bring ourselves here, to be aware, as you said, of the warm water on our body in a shower. And I love that sensation. I was like, yes, Jenny, I've done that, where I've gone in and just like feeling it like times that I've been caught in the rain outside
Yeah.
myself, and like it bringing me that to those moments where it was like, oh, I remember when I got stuck in a rainstorm, out, it was when I was traveling, and you're out and you have nowhere to go and whatever, and now you're stuck there. But that, like, and so there are moments that I've been present enough to say, wow, this warm water feels really good. So thank you for sharing that. What are some of the other ways that you help people to build their happiness toolkit? So what works for you, what works for me is all different. So we need to know what
Absolutely.
those things are and put them into our toolkit. We can't take things for granted. Like, we have to be conscious that
Right.
when we are doing things at any moment, to pay attention, to say, am I getting, like, how do I feel about this? Am I tapping into the joy inside of me when I'm cooking, when I'm playing with my kids, when I'm walking my dog, when I'm writing, when I'm watching TV? Like, to really be aware of how we're feeling at any moment. And like you said, playing our favorite song. I'm with you. Like, I'm there making dinner sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not feeling it tonight. I'm like, I know what I need to do. Put my music on. All of a sudden, it's like, no, making the dinner didn't feel so bad. And it's like, because I know what these things are. And so it's
Mhm.
important for us to know, what are these tools that we can put in our toolkit. And what I love about you is, it there's a simplicity, and it's true that we make things more complicated than they really are. That if we got down to the basics, it's those things that if we really dialed in really mindful, really present, that tiny things can allow us. It's not the things that bring us the joy. It's that they allow us to feel the joy that's already inside of us. It's always there, but we're not always tapping into it. So please share with us some of the
Absolutely.
tools that work for you and that work for your
Yeah.
clients.
Well, one of the first things I'll have my clients do is write a list of 10 things that bring them to that present moment, that bring them that joy. Maybe it's a cup of tea and sitting outside on their back deck. Maybe it is putting on that favorite song and singing at the top of their lungs. Maybe it's cuddling up with their pet on the couch. Like everyone is different. Different things bring us all joy. I love that you remembered that moment in the rain. That brought me so much joy hearing about that. And that's one thing I will tell my clients. We have no problem bringing ourselves back to a really bad memory that brings challenges up. But why not hold your hand on your heart and bring in one of your happiest memories? It could be something simple. It could be a moment out in nature. It could be a moment that you had laughing with a friend or laughing with a loved one or cuddling with an animal, pet that you love. Why not take those like 30 seconds to close your eyes and go inward and bring back that happy memory? Because what that does is it affirms to us, you know what, life is good. I have had happy memories before. I will have happy memories again. And it really empowers us. It's all about that empowering energy. If we are kind of poisoning our minds with disempowering thoughts all day, we're going to feel disempowered. But if we choose these moments, sometimes I'll have clients set an alarm for once an hour just to bring themselves to the present moment. What have I been thinking for the last 5 minutes? What can I do to support myself? That's a great question to ask every day. What can I do to support myself? Choose one of those 10 things on the list and make sure you do it that day. I have the list of 10 things too because we can become stubborn. We can be like arms crossed. No, I don't feel like doing that today. But if we have 10 things, it is likely that you will find one of those things on the list that will watch funny pet videos, do something that's just going to bring you to that state of joy and peace and presence. We all do deserve that. And you're
Yeah.
really the only person that can give yourself permission to take that time.
Mhm. And to put aside that thought that, oh, this is cheesy, this is weird, because they work. Like, as you said,
Yeah.
watching the funny cat videos or whatever, that brings you a laugh. That there's all
Yeah.
this science and research around how much laughter really right away increases our energy and vibration. And I know my partner likes to watch videos on social media. I'm not really so much like that, but there was an evening that it was like he had me laughing with a whole bunch of videos that he had found, and then it was like some comedians and skits and things like that, and I was just laughing, and it just felt so good to laugh. And so sometimes we just have to get out of our own head and just be like, well, you know what, I'm going to do this. Like you said, put that little reminder on the hour to just to think about and reflect, like what were you doing for the last hour? What are some of the things that you were thinking about? How is the past being brought in? And that statistically, most of the thoughts that we have, so in a minute, we have 48 to 60 thoughts. 6 to 8 of them are conscious. Only 6 to 8 of them. The rest of them are all
Mhm.
subconscious thoughts that are just replaying over and over and
Yep.
over. Like the brain is like a machine in that way, that it doesn't stop. We know that it doesn't stop, that even in meditation, we're trying to get it to just like quiet down, and it won't. It's just going, that even when we're sleeping, we're dreaming.
Yep.
It's like this thing really never stops, right? And so it's like we just have to press the pause button for just like, even if it is just on the hour, press pause and just be present. What are you doing? Is it bringing you joy? How are you feeling? We have to constantly bring ourselves, like tapping into our emotional self and saying, how do I feel?
Yes.
How do I feel? Now, Jenny, how back to the statement about helping people to understand that everything. We live in a world of possibilities. How can we remind ourselves of that during a time when we feel so limited?
It is in those little things. It is in knowing where are you focusing your attention. That I love that you could sit on your back deck and it could feel like this whole beautiful oasis for you. Where is your oasis? Like, it is up to us to make life heaven on earth. It's not up to the outside world. It would be pretty hard for, the whole outside world to make heaven on earth for all of us. All of us have very different needs. So what does bring you that joy and peace and love? And are you getting distracted by the outside world? Because we are a microcosm. So if we start controlling how we're feeling, our partners are going to start feeling lighter and our kids are going to start feeling lighter. And there is that ripple effect. So it does begin with us and knowing that we are in control, not giving our control over, just like we can give it over to the past. Oh, well, I'm limited because of this. If we say that repeatedly, we will be. If we get distracted constantly by the outside world and I'm limited, I can't do this, I can't do this, we're limited by those words, but we can change that up. Maybe you can't go on the vacation you wanted, but can you go for a walk to a new area, a new park that maybe you didn't explore? Like, how can we reframe things so that we do open to just switching up the energy a little bit? And instead of being that
Mhm.
stubborn, no, it needs to be my way, really opening up
Yes.
new energy. And that allows everything to open up and miracles to open up and stop being limited and give ourselves permission to just say, well, what if I did explore that new park? What if I joined this meetup group and saw what
Mhm.
that was about? Maybe it's a meditation group, maybe it's a hiking group. Like, what if I just opened up something new in myself? And it can be something little too, an online class, YouTube. You could learn anything on YouTube. But have you wanted to learn to cook a different recipe? Have you learned to want my partner and I are taking
Mhm.
salsa dance in our living room, right now. What can you do to invite in more joy?
Mhm.
Because the more joy, the more safe you'll feel, the more that ripples out, and the happier you're going to be.
Mhm. Yes, Jenny, thank you. Thank you for all of that. That it's to leave ourselves open. And that was my first guest. It was about that too, that we talked about his song Help is on the Way. And it was about leaving ourselves open to the possibility that there is help, that there is a world bigger than ourselves, and that and I love really when you said about looking at into the stars at night. I feel that the universe is so expansive, and that I am like just a tiny speck of this huge microcosm, and that we need to release more into that, and to allow ourselves to be open to the possibilities of what that can bring. It's just and it's being consciously making that decision to do that, to say I'm going to leave myself open to the possibilities of that greatness to come up and to show up in our lives. And it does, right? It shows up in like different signs, symbols,
Yes,
coincidences, things like that.
it does. And if we feel like we can't get out of our way, hand it over to God, the universe, love, whatever. Please let me get out of my own way. Please show me a way to
Mhm.
open up to something else. Really just knowing that we're human and we've been programmed with those thoughts that you were saying, those unconscious thoughts that keep going, but we can choose new thoughts. And then choosing new thoughts, we change our energy and we really do change our life and invite in that happiness and the unlimited possibility.
Mhm. And Jenny, I'm with you. For me, this is one of the things that I say about happiness. Unless we're happy with ourselves, we
Right.
won't be happy like with our life. And it all comes back down to us, how we feel about ourselves, and tapping into again that love, peace, and happiness that's inside of us. And for and which I'm sure as a self love coach and empowerment, is it healer too? That do you also feel that self-love is very tied to the happy life that we can live?
Self-love and self-worth is the center of it. Absolutely.
Mm.
Because if we've believed someone's limiting thoughts that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not this enough, we will attract relationships that reflect that. We are a mirror
Mhm.
for how people treat us. So if we feel good about ourselves, we're going to set those healthy boundaries and we're going to call positive relationships to us. We're not going to overgive to feel like we have to prove ourselves or really accept anything
Mhm.
less than what we're worth. We're really going to demand that people treat us with the respect that we want to be treated with
Mhm.
and know that we deserve the relationship of our dreams and the career of our dreams and happy and healthy friendships around us and to feel good from the inside out. But it really is about tapping into that self love and self worth and knowing that so maybe you have a couple bad habits or patterns. They've been put into place because they soothed you in some way. And
Mhm.
being loving and compassionate with yourself instead of beating yourself up about them. How can I put better, healthier habits in place and behaviors? How can I love myself enough to support myself, to create that unlimitedness that I want to
Mhm.
bring into my life?
That's right. That's right. And how can we show that love in all aspects of ourself, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self? All of that. How can we nurture that? So, yeah, I'm totally in alignment with you. Now, Jenny, if people want to connect with you after the show, how can they do that?
They can reach me on my website, jennymanion.com, JennyMannion.com. I have free offerings. I do have a monthly energy call. I really do love connecting with people and connecting other people together because it's so empowering to be in circle and for people to help each other and to know we're not alone. We could have felt isolated these last couple of years, but we're all on this journey together. I love that saying we're
Mhm.
all walking each other home. And just
Mhm.
knowing that most of us have struggled with self-love and self-worth, and these are commonalities that we have that we can really kind of wrap each other with these like in these inner hugs. And I would love to support anyone just really tapping into that inner love and starting to live their life full of unlimited possibilities.
Mhm. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing just some of the very simple ways that we can connect with the happiness within ourselves to live a life where everything is possible.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Such an honor to talk with you.
I'd like to leave you with the thought for the day. It's not our fault that we are conditioned to believe that happiness exists outside of ourselves in our possessions, positions, titles, degrees, relationships, and experiences. However, when you give up the search for happiness outside yourself and realize that happiness is your essential nature, it's who you really are, then a huge weight has been removed. You now know that you don't need to achieve, earn, find, wait for, purchase, or pursue anything to be happy. The truth is, you can be happy now. That's where happiness is. It is found in the now. The biggest predictor of how happy you will be in the future is how happy you can be now. However, being in the now sounds a lot easier than it is, since 95% of the time we live from the subconscious mind, and 95% of the thoughts we have are from the past. It takes conscious and consistent effort to bring ourselves into the present moment. There are various practices which we've talked about on this season of the show that can help us to do just that, such as meditation, mindfulness, journaling, prayer, breath work, and gratitude. Practices like these help us to leave our trauma, our regret, our shame, our guilt, our mistakes from the past, or our worry and anxiety of the future away, even if just for a little while. As you know, I like to look at happiness like a two-sided coin. If you're not feeling happy, one side of the coin is that there are blocks that are preventing you from feeling the happiness that's always there within you to feel. The other side of the coin is whether you are taking the time to connect with the happiness within you. It is vital that we go inward and nurture our spiritual selves in addition to our physical, mental, and emotional selves. In our spiritual selves lies our superpowers and our invincibility. When we connect to that place within ourselves, we know that anything is possible because we are connecting to the quantum field of infinite possibilities. We are never alone, and we are completely supported by the universe, which allows us to surrender to its support, knowing we don't have to do it all and do it on our own. Ultimately, in order to be happy, we must be happy with ourselves. Loving and accepting ourselves unconditionally and demonstrating that love to our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves. Self-love helps us to realign ourselves with the wholeness and perfection that we are. It helps us to remember that we are enough just as we are, and that we are worthy of everything we want to do, be, or have. It's time we start living our big self, our true and authentic self, so that we can live a life where we feel on purpose in every moment while creating the happy life we came here to live. It's been an honor to be with you every week here on Soul Livity TV. If you've enjoyed the content, let me know by connecting with me on Instagram at Teresa Greco _steps to happiness, or on Facebook, Steps to Happiness with Teresa Greco. I'd love to know what you liked about the show. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all much love, health, and happiness.
To connect with Teresa Greco after the show for coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements, you can visit her website at teresagreco.ca or by email at stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com, or follow her on Instagram at Teresa Greco _steps to happiness, or on Facebook at Steps to True Happiness with Teresa Greco.